Hi everyone, Korean Wendigoon here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the ARG and Creepypasta Iceberg. This iceberg was created by Gustavo Kun on Reddit, and although they called it the ARG Iceberg, I decided to add Creepypasta onto it because there's a good amount of entries that talk about only creepypastas. And most people think internet horror ARGs are creepypastas anyways. But no, I'm not going to be talking about Jeff the Killer or Sonic EXE. I'm going to be talking about the good stuff here, alright? And this video won't be super spooky because creepypastas aren't that scary anyways. I want to clarify that this video is in no means a full explanation of each of the entries I'm going to be talking about. I hope that this video helps you discover some new or upcoming and interesting ARGs, so you can just hop in and participate if the ARG is still going strong, or you can just go down the rabbit hole like I did for this video. Without further ado, let's begin with the first tier, which is actually two tiers combined together because the first tier only had like 3 entries. And let's get started. Marble Hornets is a series of YouTube videos and is basically one of the pioneers of the Slender Man web series. There are 87 episodes in the entire series, and for now I'm going to be summarizing season 1. It begins with Jay, who investigates what happened to the student film Marble Hornets. The director, Alex Crayley, ended production 3 months in suddenly and decided to give Jay the videotapes he made before cutting contact with him. As Jay watches the tapes, he discovers that Alex has been hampered by the Operator, the name for Slender Man in this series. So the Operator constantly stalks Alex and afflicts him with a sickness that causes violent coughs and severe paranoia. This paranoia causes changes in his behavior as he lashes out on his cast and crew, along with buying tons of tapes to catch the Operator on camera. Any footage of the Operator becomes heavily distorted with static and random cutting and very, very loud audio distortion. Jay would then interview the Marble Hornets cast and crew. He meets up with Tim, a Marble Hornets actor, who tells him about Brian and how he had suddenly disappeared. Jay would then investigate Brian's house, which had been abandoned for some time. He also finds pieces of evidence, which includes the pretty much iconic scribbled drawing notes. It was after this video where we get introduced to a conspicuous channel, To the ARG. Utilizing the ancient art of YouTube video replies, To the ARG's videos are in nature cryptic and disturbing, with the purpose of threatening Alex and Jay. To the ARG's videos have hidden messages and puzzles for the audience to solve. It's basically the ARG part of Marble Hornets. Throughout the replies, the channel refers to an ARG. Whatever it is has been speculated for some time. No one in the community ever agreed on what this ARG could be. Back to the series, Jay returns to Brian's house again, only to encounter a masked man who is also called Masky in the community. Masky attacks Jay, but suffers what appears to be a seizure, and then Jay wakes up the next day. In a later entry, Jay reveals that he had begun filming himself like Alex did during the Marble Hornets production. To the ARG begins threatening Jay, which leads him to leave his apartment. It was soon burned down afterwards. He would then receive a video in the mail of Alex and Amy, Alex's girlfriend, being attacked by the Operator. Because of this video, Jay sets off to find Alex. There was a Marble Hornets movie called Always Watching a Marble Hornets Story. It has none of the original cast and crew, none of the writers, none of the original creators involved. And guess what? It blows! Cicada 3301 is an organization that created 3 complicated puzzles online to recruit hackers and such. The first puzzle was revealed on January 4th, 2012 after an image was uploaded on 4chan. From there, Anons had to go through a technical rabbit hole as they went through a series of puzzles. These puzzles included going through hidden subreddits, decrypting messages, finding hidden links, and getting off their gaming chairs and finding QR codes in public. The purpose of these puzzles, according to 3301, is to recruit, quote, highly intelligent individuals. But of course, no one knows what they really want. But that didn't stop Anons from speculating who or what 3301 is. When it was first revealed, some people thought it was like a prank, a troll, a joke, just a general waste of time. However, people thought these puzzles are too complex and intricate to just be a mere troll, so people started to believe the organization was something bigger. Some believed 3301 was an alternate reality game, probably for some promotion of some corporation or some video game. Others thought that 3301 was a recruitment group used for government agencies such as the NSA, the CIA, FBI, and others. Some also thought it was a cult. The first puzzle was completed by Marcus Warner, resulting in 2 more puzzles being released on January 4th, 2013 and January 4th, 2014 respectively. The 2 puzzles mostly followed the same formula: get an image, find some stuff hidden in the image, get a link, go to the subreddits, yada yada yada. However, the second puzzle is notable for introducing a book called Liber Primus, which translates to first book. The book is written in a Nordic style alphabet, which can be translated back to English. It doesn't help much because after the book was translated, it's still full of ciphers, puzzles, and entirely encrypted pages. As of now, I think there are 56 pages still unsolved. After the third puzzle was published in 2014, the group fell into a state of silence. Only 1 new clue was released in January 5th, 2016, and a verified PGP signed message was released on April 2017. It's basically telling everyone, hey, Liber Primus, that's the key, you gotta translate that, bro. So as of now, there hasn't been any new updates since. What the ultimate goal of 3301 is remains a mystery. Weiner and other winners claim they were interviewed about their views on freedom, online privacy, and censorship. Those who passed the interview phase would be invited to a secret forum where they were tasked on working on secret projects for 3301. This forum has been shut down. If you want a more detailed explanation of Cicada 3301, I recommend watching Lemino's documentary on it. A true internet classic, Ben Drowned is a creepypasta later turned ARG created by Alexander Jerusalem Hall, first published as a thread on 4chan's paranormal board. It begins with Jerusalem finding a bootleg copy of The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask at a local garage sale. He meets the old man running the sale, who said Jerusalem could have the game for free. The old man explained the game belonged to a kid who is not in the neighborhood anymore. I wonder if you can guess why. When Jerusalem first boots up the game, he notices a save file named Ben, but disregards it as like an old save file from the kid that the old man talked about earlier. However, glitches began appearing with the NPCs calling him Ben instead of Link, and characters being in places where they're not supposed to be. These glitches are what made Jerusalem begin writing the story in the first place. More strange things appeared in the game, including being teleported to a town with no one inside. Music begins playing in reverse, and a statue of Link, summoned by the Elegy of Emptiness, begins stalking Jerusalem. He tries to escape, but nothing he ever did worked. So he decides to look directly at the statue, and then he gets flashes of the masked salesman, the statue, and Link looking directly back at him. The story continues over the course of several days, where Jerusalem details each paranormal situation that he gets into, such as Link randomly bursting into flames, and Link lying on the ground while Skull Kid looks upon him. Jerusalem decides to frantically return the cartridge back to the old man, but comes to find the house empty. The neighbor nearby tells him that the old man had moved away, and he didn't have any grandchildren at all. Jerusalem then asks the neighbor about Ben, who turns out to be a neighborhood kid who drowned 8 years ago. With this in mind, Jerusalem comes to the conclusion that the game was possessed by the kid's spirit. Ben, the spirit, begins contacting Jerusalem through the game and other means such as Cleverbot. Using the statue as its physical form, Ben begins manipulating Jerusalem into inflicting him with various nightmares. Jerusalem was never seen again. So this next part marks the beginning of the ARG. After Ben escaped from the game, a cult called the Moon Children was discovered after a viewer deciphered a code on one of Jerusalem's videos, leading them to the website. On the website, you shouldn't have done that.net. You will find a forum where the members of the cult talk about the upcoming ascension of one of their other members. When users begin exploring the website, they were able to find clues about the characters and solve puzzles to continue the story. This ARG is pretty extensive with numerous puzzles, many characters dying, living, dying, then being revived and living, and some character development on the spirit Ben. The ARG has officially ended with Alexander Hall coming out as the creator. Petscop is a YouTube web series starring an individual named Paul who plays a lost unfinished PlayStation game called Petscop. It starts off relatively mundane, with the first impressions being cutesy and colorful. Paul wanders around the world and captures creatures called pets. Most of these pets are obtained through environmental puzzles. The first 4 videos uploaded on the channel was meant to be for someone else because Paul directly talks to them about the game. On the game box, Paul finds a note with instructions on how to access a secret area. Quote, "I walked downstairs and when I got to the bottom, instead of proceeding, I turned the right and became a shadow monster man. Please go to my website on the sticker. Also go to Ronith's room and press start and press down, 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 right, start." By following these instructions, Paul enters a new area called the Newmaker Plain, which is a grassy field that is surrounded by pitch black darkness. The area has sparse landmarks accompanied by numerous tunnels and underground chambers. So there's a lot of puzzles still found in the Newmaker Plain, and Paul, being the curious type, attempts to solve all of them through reverse engineering and understanding the game's logic. Some key plot points include someone named Marvin, the disappearance of Lena, Marvin's childhood friend, and the kidnapping of Marvin's daughter, Care, who Marvin believes is Lena Reborn. Now, rebirthing is one of the key themes of Petscop, and there are many references to it, such as the repeated question of, "Do you remember being born?" and many other allusions to the Candace Newmaker rebirthing incident. On April 18th, 2000, Candace Newmaker was subjected to a rebirthing session after her foster mother grew frustrated at Newmaker's behavior and attitude at home. As a part of the therapy, Newmaker was wrapped in a flannel sheet and covered with pillows to simulate a womb for her to fight through. 4 adults with a combined weight of 673 pounds, about 305 kilos, was pushed onto Newmaker as she attempted to crawl out of the simulated womb. The therapist would constantly taunt her, calling her a quitter and telling her to die right now. After over an hour, the faculty unwrapped the sheets to find Newmaker motionless. Paramedics were able to revive her pulse, and she was flown by helicopter to a nearby hospital. However, she was declared brain dead next day. Candace Newmaker was only 10 years old. So, back to the series. Paul helps Marvin locate the landmarks found throughout the Newmaker Plain, along with recreating Care's rebirthing process. Later, Paul realizes that these landmarks are actually real, and he decides to go investigate himself. This would be the last time Paul appears on the channel, and new videos uploaded onto the channel don't have any narration at all. As of now, Petscop is known to be fictional, but during the series run, there was a lot of speculation on whether the game was real or not. I think that shows the sheer amount of talent and effort that Domenico put into the series. It's obvious Petscop's themes include child abuse and childhood trauma. If you haven't seen Petscop, do yourself a favor and first finish the video, and then go on like a binge on their channel. I don't think there's ever going to be an ARG at this level for a little while. The SCP Foundation is an organization that documents and contains various locations, objects, creatures, and entities that defy the laws of nature. These entities, referred to as SCPs, could cause detrimental harm to humanity and could cause worldwide panic. Don't worry though, the Foundation will deploy agents to obtain and transport the SCP into containment. This would lead to Foundation scientists to conduct tests and to study the SCPs utilizing expendable test subjects, referred to as D-Class, to interact with dangerous SCPs. Documentation on all SCPs in custody is maintained by the Foundation, where they describe the SCPs and provide instructions on how to keep them contained. Each SCP is assigned a unique identification number and object class. What rating each SCP receives isn't based on their inherent danger, but how difficult they are to contain. So the first one is the safe class, which is pretty self-explanatory. It means the SCP can be easily contained, and whatever dangerous or weird anomalies that happen requires an intentional activation. Euclid is a class where the more unpredictable SCPs are assigned, and it is the most common object class. It basically means the Foundation is still working on how to properly contain them. Most SCPs classified as Euclid are usually autonomous, sentient, or sapient. The Keter class is assigned to SCPs that are exceedingly difficult to contain, requiring extensive and complicated procedures. A Keter SCP doesn't automatically make them dangerous. It means they're extremely difficult to contain. Maybe it does make them dangerous? Who knows? If they can leave? With the extensive library of contained SCPs, there are some that I want to talk about in this video. SCP-173, arguably the most popular SCP, is a statue composed of rebar, concrete, and spray paint that remains stationary when directly looked at. If you were to blink or look away for a split second, the statue would quickly move to attack you and try to snap your neck. It's like Doctor Who's Weeping Angels, but instead of teleporting you into a random part of time, it just, kills you. SCP-49 is a humanoid entity that takes the appearance of a medieval plague doctor wearing thick robes and a bird-like beak mask. SCP-49 can speak a variety of languages, but it prefers modern English or medieval French, and is pretty much cooperative with the staff. Although, it becomes irritated when it feels something called pestilence, an unknown presence that infects individuals. SCP-49 will become hostile to those who are infected with pestilence, oftentimes just killing them outright with a single touch. SCP-49 then becomes remorseful and frustrated because killing all these pestilence-infected people doesn't really do a good job of containing it. It would then seek out for these corpses and perform a crude autopsy, which results in them becoming reanimated corpses. The SCP Foundation is a creation of a large amount of writers, and new SCPs are being added to this day. Happy Appy is a creepypasta that revolves around a narrator who investigates the long-lost Nick Jr. show, Happy Appy. The show is about an anthropomorphic apple who takes care of wounded kids by giving them the basics of first aid. Happy Appy is described to have baby blue eyes, large green lips, and a bent wooden stick. The narrator notes that each episode becomes darker as the show progresses. Let's just say Happy Appy went from helping kids to killing kids. The narrator would then detail how each episode became worse each time, describing things such as Happy Appy having a death stare / evil smile. I don't know, I just put something up on the screen that kind of shows what he's talking about. And Happy Appy doing the classic, "Hey kids, I got some candy in the van, you want to jump in?" And then just chop them up. And the last episode, the narrator describes something so horrific that he couldn't believe what he was seeing. So let's take a pause and guess what it could be. What could be the most horrific thing that a Nick Jr. show could show? It was 9/11. After watching the first 10 episodes, they begin to get stalked by a creature called Forensic. They continue to investigate the show's dark origins and search for lost episodes through sketchy links, torrents, you name it. There are 5 sequels to Happy Appy: Fright House Screamers, Forensic and the Forensic Journals, Happy Appy 2, Dumb Angel, The Insane Man, and Happy's Fun Riot. And they're all ass. I feel like the narrator's notes best describes how everyone feels about this creepypasta. And I quote, "This story, as well as its sequels, were engineered to be the worst creepypastas ever made. If you want to waste 4 hours of your life reading a story that's intentionally awful, be my guest. Otherwise, steer clear and go jack off to Jeff the Killer Yowie." No Players Online is a free horror game developed by Adam Pipe, Victor Krause, and Ward Deer. The game frames its story around the player finding a VHS tape of a capture the flag FPS from the 90s. Players would roam around an empty multiplayer map because all the servers are empty. It's this sort of isolation, knowing that you're playing in a dead server, that just kind of brings up some anxiety, don't you think? It's sort of similar to how I feel when I play Source games, especially Gary's Mod, by myself. I just feel like someone's watching me as I dick around with some ragdolls or something. So you can join the game and start playing the objective and capture the first flag. After you first capture the flag, things start to take a turn. You start to see flashes of a mysterious figure, and music evocative of the caretakers everywhere at the end of time begins playing. After you get the flag a second time, the figure then confronts you head on before disappearing and letting you free. Soon, the dev joins the game and tells you in chat not to deliver the final flag. It turns out the game is a capsule for his dead wife's soul, and that shadow figure you've been encountering throughout the game is the wife. So you're in a pretty big dilemma. Do you A, bring the flag back and potentially shut down the game, or B, leave? If you choose to leave, you can join back in and the dev will see you and he's like, why are you back in the game again? So you troll the dev and he decides to join the game. And now you can find him in this area as an eyeball. And if you shoot the eyeball, you get booted out of the game. If you were to go back on your playthrough and decide to deliver the flag a third time, you just get booted out of the game. After the game was released, someone uploaded a 100% save file in the downloads, which when open shows a bunch of code that leads to an image of a lamppost. On the bottom left of that image, you can find a hidden set of numbers, which is actually a date, November 15th, 2019. When that day arrived, the game was updated to 2.0, which adds a secret sound test system if you type in haunt on the server screen. Once you're in the sound test, you can enter a random string of numbers to play some sounds. However, if you specifically type 25467, you'll at first get a quick jump scare, and then you get a message saying removed mesh 345 collision. So this hidden area can be found by jumping into the hole in the middle of the map. Once inside, you'll find a terminal that allows you to replace the srh.cs file with your soul. A Discord user by the name of Crack Horse found a passcode hidden in the game's files. This passcode is needed to unlock the terminal to allow you to step in. Once the transfer is complete, you'll be kicked out of the game and you'll see that all the servers are filled. Catastrophe Crow is an ARG that revolves around an alleged N64 game developed by Opus Interactive. So the ARG began with a video from Adam Butcher called What Happened to Crow 64? In the video, Butcher recalls the history of the game's development and its eventual cancellation. Catastrophe Crow was first announced in 1997 with an expected release date of Christmas 1999. The game's lead, Manfred Lorenz, boasted about how Catastrophe Crow would be, quote, beyond a game and push the boundaries of a player experience. Basically, he was pulling a Cyberpunk, talking about how the game would like kick Mario's ass or something and push the limits of the N64, and mentions a eternal revival system. Catastrophe Crow was based on a drawing Lorenz's daughter drew, with the plot revolving around saving your father's business from Sir Cat. However, for whatever reason, Lorenz snaps as he spends all of his time in the office working on the game. He would then ask his developers to include weird out-of-place assets for unknown reasons. Soon Lorenz lays off everyone as Opus Interactive was suffering crippling debt and had to shut down. He continued to work on the game until 2001. When debt collectors arrived at the Opus Interactive offices, they found the place abandoned and Lorenz nowhere to be found. He was reported missing, but later on they found his boat in the North Sea with a note. This note basically says that he didn't understand why people were cruel to each other and had to continue on their own path. So we go back to Butcher's video where he talks about getting his own copy of Catastrophe Crow. He got it off of eBay and released the first look at Crow gameplay. The game at first looks like your typical 3D platformer, but then things take a weird turn. He finds a crow using a computer which talks to you in some encrypted code. A scarecrow begins to stalk the crow, and they enter a building just called Work. After failing to answer the phone call, the crow walks through a wall and sees another crow holding a computer jumping off a boat. This is of course a direct allusion to Manfred Lorenz. The crow follows suit and falls down into a forest. They see an elder crow crying over a grave. When the crow tries to leave the forest, it falls down a flight of stairs, then two mysterious skeleton figures take the crow away. The final scene in the video is of a headless crow lying in a hospital bed with life support. The room then gets flooded with water and the crow is then taken away again. This final scene basically hints on why Lorenz snapped. It could be that his daughter fell down a flight of stairs, suffered major head injury, and had to be put on life support. So this brings us back to that revival system that I mentioned earlier, which is essentially saying this game was an attempt to save his daughter. However, this must have failed because the child dies, evident from the crow being taken away. After people watched Adam Butcher's video on Catastrophe Crow, they were able to find 5 YouTube channels that include more gameplay. With this new source of clues, viewers went back to Butcher's video to see if they can solve some unanswered questions they couldn't get to at the first go. This led to a discovery to something called Crow language, which is a simple cipher that substitutes letters in the English alphabet. Users also discovered another game developed by Opus Interactive, Ocean Quest. When searched up on YouTube, a video of the game's soundtrack can be found. Now what people found from this soundtrack is pretty clever, not gonna lie. So the song begins with a 26-note sequence. And in some of the songs, there are riffs of these notes that sound like this. So if each note from the beginning sequence was paired with a letter, they could decipher messages from the riffs. And it worked! What they got was Thea, Nils, Marta, Manfred, thanks for playing. So this Ocean Quest message names the entire Lorenz family and correlates with all the crows found in the game. Whenever the game boots up, there's a splash screen with more encrypted messages. Using crow language and other means, the message can be translated into a letter written by Manfred, who writes about how he's sad Thea would never be able to play Catastrophe Crow and is now stuck in hell. This game now belongs to Nils. Now, I'm going to have to pause the explanation here because I think this ARG is still going, and it's best if you're interested, you could just hop in yourself. There's a 76 Google Doc detailing all the clues and story details that are known as of now, and I also heard that the source code has been leaked, meaning you can play Catastrophe Crow. So yeah, go have fun, go for it, man. Mariah Rose Pereira, better known as Poppy, is a singer and YouTuber that began her career uploading strange and abstract videos. So some of these videos include her eating cotton candy, having an interview with a mannequin, and repeatedly saying, "I'm Poppy," for 10 minutes.
I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy. I'm Poppy.
There are about 50 of these kinds of videos, and people are starting to think, is Poppy alright? Usually people come across this stuff and think, oh, it's probably just an ARG, you know? Or maybe it's a web series or something. The thing is, Poppy is an actual music artist with her own official YouTube music channel and albums available for download and streaming. People also took note that her Twitter and YouTube channel were created in 2011, but she hadn't started making content until 2014. It's possible that she probably had some songs or covers prior to 2014, but they were privated after she started this whole, Poppy thing. Basically, Poppy as a character is a satire on pop culture and mass media. She always acts robotic and innocent to suggest that she's kind of like a puppet or a product from some cult or evil record label or something. The character satirizes conspiracy theories about celebrities being in cults such as the Illuminati or being Satanists. It's very apparent in her music videos because she uses a lot of imagery associated with what I just mentioned earlier. So Poppy represents the music culture surrounded by the same tired cult accusations that's basically become a meme at this point. It's also possible that her partner, Titanic Sinclair, is also representing the same idea. If you first go on his website, you'll notice that the cursor changes to that funny Illuminati triangle. And he also has a fake quote from Jay-Z, who is often accused of being in the Illuminati. Recently, Poppy has dropped her character around 2019 and began making metal music. And she dropped Titanic Sinclair as her partner! She also has a cult. She sold a book on her website titled The Gospel of Poppy, which is basically her own Bible with her own prayers and musings. She even encouraged fans to pray to her and to watch videos because it's their church. Despite this effort, Poppy and Sinclair have both denied being cult leaders. Today, Poppy has mostly moved on into her own thing with the metal music and dropping the culty internet persona. She even got nominated for a Grammy, which, great job. Único
sobreviviente.
Translated as The Last Survivor, this entry is about a mysterious TikTok account ran by a man named Javier. So Javier claims that he just woke up randomly in 2027, 6 years into our future. And he's basically given the question of, where did everyone go? Javier shared multiple clips of him going to abandoned shops, empty streets, and empty beaches as well. Many users have asked him to go to specific spots to prove that he is indeed the last survivor. Javier never explicitly said what happened to the humans and how they just disappeared. And people are seeing the cracks in his stories. How come if everyone is gone and 6 years has passed, why are there still clean cars, footsteps on the beach, and ships in the water? Some have speculated that Javier was able to pull off these videos due to the pandemic lockdown, which explains how these locations are deserted. Hi, I'm Mary. Mary is an ARG about Mary, who wakes up in a copy of her parents' house with no memories of who she is. All the windows and doors are locked and cannot be opened or broken into. Food is automatically restocked, and Mary can use the internet and her camera. However, her online presence seems to be isolated as most social media sites are barren, with Mary being the only user shown. There's no other people seen outside of the windows, so she thinks she's completely alone. That is until night falls. When it does, Mary has to defend herself from strange entities that begin hunting her down. 4 distinct entities begin to appear in her videos. The first one, the Beauty, is a woman with a porcelain mask who appears in mirrors to taunt Mary. Contrary to her name, the Beauty possesses a decayed face with yellow teeth under her mask. The Veiled Lady is the most aggressive of the 4, hunting down Mary at any given moment. Sometimes the Veiled Lady chooses to torment Mary through her words rather than physically attacking her. The Shadow is a black figure that torments Mary by constantly giving her some sort of dread. It only attacks her when Mary feels that she's safe from the other entities. Whenever the Shadow appears on camera, phrases on the screen pop up such as, "I feel nothing" and "I messed up." The darkness is a bit more confusing to understand. From what we see, it's a disembodied black mass that inhabits the entirety of the house as it spreads itself out. At one point, Mary tries to catch the darkness with her hand, and then it attaches herself onto her palm. This results in the other entities becoming much more powerful. The Beauty can now exist outside of mirrors, the Shadow becomes larger in size, and the Veiled Lady becomes more aggressive. While trying to escape, Mary suddenly gets teleported into a lake, arriving at the location that she calls the garden, where none of the monsters in the house can follow her. Mary enjoys being in the garden, staying for hours, and feeling peaceful. She then stumbles upon the woman in white robes, who tells Mary to leave the garden. After she meets with her, the garden begins to transform into a hellish version of itself. It begins to constantly rain, with no sunshine being seen anywhere. Creepy abandoned places and objects begin appearing in the garden, and the garden itself sometimes transforms into an ocean where Mary may drown. The themes of this ARG are becoming apparent, as it is about mental illness. The house represents her mind, while the monsters represent her struggles with depression, self-hate, anxiety, and regret. Mary's first visit to the garden represents a euphoria experienced from a high from drugs such as like weed, cocaine, or heroin. This leads to a crippling addiction as she struggles to get the same euphoric reaction again, which is represented with the garden deteriorating. Okay, so now it's time for the audience to save Mary, aka this is where the ARG begins. When Mary first meets the lady in white, she only mouthed her words, which unfortunately for Mary, she can't lip read. So viewers have studied the video and deciphered what the white lady was trying to say. Mary, you are not okay. This place is not good for you. You need help. Please, Mary, listen to me. So the woman in white is on Mary's side, which is further evident by Mary's blog. This blog is sort of an addendum to the video series where Mary posts additional findings in her home. If you look at the blog's source code, there are various hidden messages which I'll basically summarize. Someone has been trying to reach to Mary, but they can't reach the house and they know the creatures are mentally tormenting Mary. The person writing the message says, quote, "You've seen me before, in the garden." This is, of course, the woman in white writing these messages. So she invites any users to decrypt a message she's trying to relay to the audience, but she keeps getting censored by something. It's probably one of the monsters in the house, although how they reach the internet and use a laptop, I don't know. Some new pictures were uploaded onto the blog where users could manipulate them to find the hidden message. Stay out of the garden. The woman in white begins to panic in the blog's source code, saying that she's getting weaker and still can't communicate with Mary. At this point in the video series, Mary is at her breaking point. She begins to physically deteriorate as the monsters continue to become stronger and stronger, all while signs for hope begin to fade. The series does take a turn on the video anagnosis, which basically means the point in the story where the protagonist recognizes their true identity or the true nature of their circumstances. So Mary finally gets contact from social media, which angers the vile lady. She then teleports back to the garden, but the darkness had followed her into it. Mary confronts the darkness, fully admitting that she needs help. The darkness attacks her, but the woman in white rescues her and finally talks to her. The woman in white tells Mary that this world she is in is a creation of her own mind, and while confronting the darkness, Mary actually defeated it and now has control over it. So by using the darkness, Mary returns to the house and confronts the vile lady. Then they have like a big crazy Dragon Ball Z battle, and Mary is able to liberate the house from all the creatures and the darkness she's in. And in the last video, she packs up her bags, opens the front door, and leaves the house for good. The series ends with the exposition of Mary telling the audience that they're not alone in their struggles and should fight back whenever they can. We're actually on tier 2, which is actually tier 3. Most of these ARGs and creepypastas are fairly recognizable, so let's just jump right into it. Unedited footage of a bear is an adult swim short created by Alan Resnick and Wham City Comedy. It's formatted as an infomercial that begins with unedited footage of a bear. The footage then gets interrupted by an ad for decongestant Claridril. It's your typical drug advert with your mom saying how, "Oh, my life is so much better for taking care of these kids because my nose is now decongested." As she drives off at the end of the ad, all of the graphical elements and the narration begin to fade. The mom becomes addicted to the stuff, and she continues to huff it while she's driving. She then gets delirious as she drives past a crime scene and has her vision warped. The fine print warning on these drug ads say that Claridril can cause depression and suicidal tendencies. She then receives a phone call from herself and sees the same yellow cardigan she's wearing on the floor. The lady, who's named Donna, looks down the street to see her clone. The clone begins running towards her after beating her up in the car. She takes the keys and runs over Donna with the car. It's now nighttime, and Donna somehow survived the whole ordeal. She crawls towards her house and sees that the imposter had already broken in. Donna's kids run down the stairs to meet what they thought was their mother, but the clone surprises them and begins to chase after the kids. We get shots of different versions of Donna, one frantically calling the phone, one under the basement going hysterical, one outside of the house playing with white plastic chairs, and the clone tormenting the kids by yelling at them and scribbling all over their pictures. We cut back to the main Donna reaching the stairs of her front porch before the police show up to her house. Although it might be a fake out as the sirens slowly turn into spotlights. While the short is pretty interesting and surreal, the real meat of this ARG comes from the Claridril website. When you first visit it, you can click on links on the bottom of the page. However, these links would just fly out, and they wouldn't return unless you click on the FAQ button on the top. If you repeatedly do this, the website slowly becomes deformed, with the Claridril bottle slowly increasing in size. It sort of reminds me of username 666, where you constantly refresh the YouTube page. After doing this a repeated amount of times, there's an image of the house in the background and clicking on it zooms it in until it takes up the entire page. It then becomes a sort of point and click adventure game where you can explore the house from the short. If you look at the page's source code, you can find a hidden link to a YouTube page with the clone staring at the camera. So that's all I'm gonna talk about from the ARG. The theme of this project is pretty simple. Drugs are no good. The change from nature, shown as the unedited footage of a bear, to this hellish allergy medicine commercial kind of speaks for itself. Ted the Caver is a creepypasta written on an Angel Fire page in 2001. Ted starts his online caving journal by talking about the mystery cave, a cave that he found near his home. He brings a friend along, B, after he promised them that they would go to one more cave before the New Year's. After they enter Mystery Cave, they find a small opening in the lower portion of the cave. So they begin to drill through the hole, but strange things start happening in the cave. At first, B's dog, Whip, was led into the small hole to check it out. The dog then began to act on edge, whimpering, cowering in fear, tails under the legs, you know it. Afterwards, B would hear a strange noise and Ted would notice that the cave's air had become unusually still. They both talked about what caused all these anomalies, and they decided to take a 3-week break from caving. Soon they returned and began drilling again, even though they had become slightly paranoid from the last trip. Ted and B continued to rationalize the odd behavior of Mystery Cave, but they failed to find a conclusion. Either way, the duo continued to drill through the hole. Progress was visibly made as the passage becomes larger and larger. This was until a loud scream emanated throughout the cave, startling Ted and B. After a few minutes of standing still in fear, the two decided to call it quits for the day and head back to a motel nearby. They would return back to the cave to resume work on the passage, which, at this point, became an obsession for Ted and B. Their progress got to the point where Ted could squeeze half of his body through the passage. Soon enough, Ted could fit his entire body through the hole. Eventually, Ted gets through the passage and crawls into a new room. He finds strange hieroglyphics on the wall, but when attempting to take a picture of them, he couldn't develop the pictures properly. So we just have to suffice with a drawing he uploaded on the blog. The next day, B decided that he wanted to bring someone else along to explore the passage with him and Ted. The new caver, Joe, arrived to see the passage and was chosen because he was slimmer than Ted and B. They didn't tell Joe about any of the unexplained stuff that happened to them before, probably because they didn't want to spook him out of doing anything. Ted would send Joe through the passage so he could see the room for himself. He disappears into the room and stops responding to Ted and B for about 20 minutes. All of a sudden, Joe frantically crawls his way out of the passage while tugging all of his gear. Ted noted that he was pale and had a lot of scratches and scrapes all over his body. After a 2-week hiatus, Ted and B would return back to the mystery cave. This visit was different because Ted basically wrote that he was scared shitless. They did the same routine. Ted squeezes through the passage and enters his room, and B stays behind to make sure nothing happens. However, Ted began to hear scraping noises behind him, causing him to quickly stand up and break his helmet. Because his helmet was the only source of light and his phone was dying, Ted began to panic. He struggles to escape the room as he experiences an unexplained pain in his neck, legs, and back. He makes it to the passage and yells to B to start packing up. Ted finally makes it through the passage, full of cuts and scrapes. They both desperately climb their exit rope to escape Mystery Cave. However, as Ted begins climbing, something or someone begins pulling the rope from below. Panic, Ted lets go of his harness and continues to climb on an ascender. Both he and Bill finally escape the cave. For the next 3 weeks, Ted continues to write about what happened after they left the cave. He writes about the lucid nightmares he had, the hallucinations he sees when he lives alone in his house, and just the overall severe paranoia. Later on, he meets up with Joe, who wants to return to the cave. Ted agrees to come with him and asks B to come along with him as well. He details the equipment that he's going to bring this time, which includes a gun and a knife. He promises to update the blog once he returns. He hasn't updated the blog ever since. So there's been a lot of discussion on whether or not Ted the Caver actually happened. Some people claim that Mystery Cave is the interstate caves in Utah. The otherworldly noises that Ted and B heard throughout the story could just be the highway traffic above them. Some claim to know B and that he was an actual caver. I couldn't find much evidence besides word of mouth, so I'm just gonna assume the story is fictional. There's also a movie adaptation of this story called Living Dark: The Story of Ted the Caver, and it's apparently not very good. 11BX1371 is a mysterious video showing a plague doctor standing in a dilapidated building. Throughout the video, ciphers and encrypted messages can be found, along with hidden images in the sound spectrogram. Apparently, images of tortured and mutilated people can be found as well, and you know I'm not showing that shit. Many begin to search for the original creator of this video. Viewers first questioned AETBX, the user who first uploaded it on YouTube. They vehemently denied being the video's creator. The Washington Post would later contact this YouTube channel, who identified themselves as Daniel from Spain. So Daniel from Spain said that he got his video in the mail and in his email from a girl who said that she found the video lying on a park bench. Okay. There are also two potential leads that were investigated, but they were both proven false. The first one involves a student film group sending screenshots with binary descriptions. However, the group claimed that they were hacked, and the screenshot was probably sent from that hacker. The other lead was someone named Parker J. Wright, who was suspected because a YouTube channel called Parker Wright posted the video on YouTube with a note saying, "Are you listening?" While people were trying to find the original creator, the location was found. It's a building located in the Zofiówka Sanitarium, a little south of Warsaw. A Polish user visited the location and found the exact room with the exact same graffiti found in the video. In the end, it turns out that Parker Wright did make the video, not Parker J. Wright, but Parker Warner Wright. He proved that he was the original creator by uploading a video titled 11B31369, after he stated that a new video would be released, quote, in exactly 1.444 metric hours, where we learned that he was actually a US citizen living in Poland and that these videos are just an art project. He said that there are 3 physical video copies. 2 were left in a Polish subway and a park respectively, while the last video was uploaded onto 4chan. So with the question of who made it answered, people began to investigate what this art project was about anyways. Some interpreted the audio as saying, "I would love to kill you," repeated over and over again. Messages could be found in the video's spectrogram, which includes text saying, "You are already dead," and more images of tortured and mutilated people. These messages are usually threatening in tone. The spectrogram of the DVD's menu music shows a picture of a skull with more encrypted messages. Some of the binary titles translate to death and "you have less than 1 year." The Plague Doctor outfit could also be an allusion to bioterror. As of now, not all of the hidden messages have been found, and Parker Wright hints at an expansion of the project in the future. Ash Vlogs is a YouTube web series / ARG following a girl named Ash who does vlogs. She recently moved into her new apartment and decided to start her own YouTube channel. Her introduction video has a YouTube link in the description, which leads to this. Okay, that's kinda strange. She continues to make vlogs of her making arts and crafts, talking to her neighbor through the wall, etc, etc. When she did talk to her neighbor though, the whole atmosphere was kinda ominous.
Lady Katie!
Why? Who else would it be? You talking to someone else?
You mean someone else? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I thought that our wall relationship was monogamous.
I'm not well, but
Oh.
when I'm better.
Yeah, that's fine, of course. I hope you feel better, hey?
And throughout all these videos, there are YouTube links in her descriptions which she doesn't seem to be aware of. So she continues to make more of her usual content. It seems like someone else has access to her YouTube channel. Most of these description videos have puzzles for the viewers to decipher. It's basically one of the ARG parts of this series. Ash then uploads a vlog asking the audience if they know who's in the strange car that always parks near her apartment. And this is where Ash vlogs and those description videos begin to merge. One of the hidden videos has audio from a vlog that hadn't been uploaded yet at the time. So this brings the question of, were these vlogs pre-recorded? It's possible that Ash isn't the one uploading the videos and this person controls the whole channel and essentially the whole narrative. Most of the time, the hidden videos has him with a laptop opened on the YouTube upload page, which kind of supports this claim. So a couple of more vlogs were released, with one description video having a woman screaming behind a red background. Ash receives a package with this symbol on it. Inside, Ash finds an external hard drive and decides to investigate with her friend Alice. On the computer, Ash and Alice find a C2F.exe, which has the same symbol. Now, you and I know that opening strange .exe files is a pretty bad idea, but Ash Vlogs is a fictional ARG story, so the character's gotta play dumb to progress, you know what I mean? So, they open the AXE, and this happens. After this, the car guy pulls up to her apartment, causing the girls to panic. Ash calls the cops and basically gets the fuck out of there. The description video for this Ash Vlogs shows the car guy chasing after what appears to be Ash before capturing her. So yeah, this kind of proves that Ash doesn't control the channel anymore. There's a lot going on with other channels such as Raka Raka, This Is Kate, and all the description videos being public, and all the live streams, and Ash not being dead, or is dead, who knows. So the official channel has been renamed to I Know Where She Is, which is the name of the group that has been tormenting her and her friends. I think as of now the ARG has ended or was postponed due to the pandemic. There are a lot of fake channels and videos out there on YouTube trying to imitate Ash Vlogs. There's this one specific channel called Ash Vlogs that has been accused of being a game jacker and has been uploading videos trying to trick viewers into thinking that the ARG is back. Most of the content is pretty abstract. They reuse footage from other ARGs, and I'm sure using Instagram pics from Lauren Kupowitz, the actress who plays Ash, as thumbnails is a dead giveaway. Hopefully the ARG continues, and maybe I'll make a full video on it. Leave a comment if you want that to happen. Cat Ghost is a YouTube web series / ARG centering around Elon and Nara, who are a cat and a ghost respectively. They are also accompanied by a hedgehog, Gideon, who at first impression sounds like Critical.
Oh, awesome. It's you too.
And then Critical gets to voice him later on in the series as a clone.
I wouldn't feel comfortable floating through space.
Most of the series revolves around Elon and Nara trolling Gideon before they get themselves into a surreal demonic event, including getting stuck in an arcade game with a strange statue, and meeting a banana who recognizes Elon, leading to its death. Each of their videos are accompanied by a game. This is where the ARG kicks in. The games usually revolve around the episode that they're attached to. For example, the first game, called Happy Birthday, has Gideon exploring the party country arcade game they were sucked into in the first episode. In this game, there are 7 rooms to be found. Each room is randomly generated, which means sometimes it could even be empty. Most of these rooms have objects which can range from skeletons to a chair to a head bust and a shovel. The most prominent object in the game would be the key, which allows players to enter a question for the key to answer. This key will answer to a preset list of questions. Some would elaborate on the fate of the 3 characters, how they died, when they died, and why they died. You could even trigger a jump scare if you type in murder. So from this specific game, and from the rest of the other games, viewers have been able to find connections to the Salem witch trial, specifically through the key's answers. Gideon would represent a judge, while Naira and Elon would represent a proselyte and a temptress respectively. The judge would vanish in 1672 because of the temptress, who would also vanish and be trapped in a jar. The proselyte will vanish at around 1650 due to unknown reasons. The key also mentions Beth and the council, but it doesn't really elaborate on what they exactly are. There's a lot to unpack in all 13 episodes in their corresponding games. If you want to check out the full ARG, you can binge watch the whole series and play the games, or watch some explanation videos. Alan Tutorials is a YouTube channel created by Alan Resnick, who worked on unedited footage of a bear. Alan at first provides tutorials on pretty mundane stuff. Tutorials on how to watch a YouTube video online, or how to fill a Tupperware bin with dirt, and how to draw a head of an anime character. There are some tutorials that seem strange from the get-go. Specifically, how to crush a can of Dr. Pepper with slates of wood, and how to eat a light spin salad. It's implied that Alan lives with his brother, as he mentions him in some tutorials. The brother also lives with his girlfriend, as a woman's voice can be heard in some of the tutorials. One of the key tutorials that explains Alan's backstory would be how to pick up a blue chair off the ground. So throughout the video, Alan attempts to pick up this chair, but you can tell he's audibly upset.
So if you have a blue chair that fell down, and
you can hear him crying as he explains how to pick up the chair. In the end, he failed to pick up the chair, telling the viewer that he can just leave it on the ground if he can't. Something about this blue chair affects Alan very deeply. I think it's becoming obvious that Alan is suffering from a mental illness. The How to Watch a YouTube Video Online shows an Autism Awareness Month banner on the computer screen. Alan describes himself as a child, and he even shows attachment to certain objects, with the blue chair. So more likely than not, Alan may have autism. And the worst part is, Alan's brother doesn't really give a shit about taking care of him. Alan has access to all these dangerous power tools, including a table saw. He also has access to wood glue, PC components, and other industrial chemicals. However, after Alan made some tutorials that involved destroying his room, he gets kicked out of the house and his brother locks down the house to keep Alan out. Some time passes by and we see Alan again on the side of a highway and in some sort of town. Alan then uploads a video of him digging through a dumpster and being in overall pretty bad shape. We also get a glimpse of the blue chair again. And this blue chair may represent his childhood and what happened to his mother. The way he treats the blue chair is sort of like how a mentally ill person reacts to someone having a heart attack or having a stroke. They don't really know what to do and they just sort of poke and prod at you while they're dying. This could have happened to his mother, and Alan was helpless to save her, which is probably why the brother is taking care of him. Going back to the series, Alan is now in a white room, fully cleaned, and wearing a robe or a hospital gown. He begins to do tutorials again, but this time he's being made to. Alan begins to become frustrated, and he decides to make news videos instead of tutorials. Despite Alan's efforts, the captures continue to leave objects in the room so he could continue to make tutorials. So Alan continues to make news videos, sometimes with newspapers that he's been provided, and sometimes with random objects he finds in the room. So the captors decided to persuade Alan into making tutorials by giving him $1. Alan becomes excited to make tutorials again because he now makes money. Sometimes he would half-ass a tutorial just so he could get the $1, and the captures know what's up. On his Twitter, Alan begins to write about his captivity and how he wants to escape. The last couple of videos show the room in a hellish state, with a black mass covering the room and spinning human legs around him. In the last video, simply called Tutorial, Alan appears to be escaping the room by ripping through the wall and crawling through the wall space. Even though Alan's tutorial is pretty straightforward in its storytelling, there's a lot of themes and meanings to what just happened. Alan Resnick is commentating on social media users' constant desire for likes, subscribers, retweets, becoming viral, etc, etc. He also criticizes the trend of how some videos or other internet creations can become viral regardless of how much effort was put into it. Where Is Everybody is a TikTok account belonging to an Alexander Nielsen. So Nielsen's in a bit of a pickle. He wakes up on one Saturday morning to see that all of the people around him have disappeared. This is similar to
Único sobreviviente.
2027, besides the time traveling part. He explores outside his home to see if he's truly alone, but he starts to see some strange anomalies. Nielsen witnesses some humanoid creatures who somehow broke into his house, causing him to immediately leave. This prompts him to start a road trip through America while documenting the absence of people. Most of the TikTok videos are just him walking through forests, getting some supplies, and one time even found a dog. He then finds a walkie-talkie, and after some experimenting, he reaches contact with a woman who's pretty confused on what he's saying, that he had been alone for almost a year and everything that just happened to him didn't make sense to the woman. The last video on this account as of now is a video of Nielsen filming the basement, which shows a pair of glowing eyes. So what's pretty impressive about this web series that it started pre-pandemic. So I'm wondering, how did he get all of this footage of him being alone and like being in restaurants and stuff? Maybe it's because he lives in like the middle of nowhere, but still not like a single car in sight, not a single person or sound. I'm wondering how he even gets into these empty supermarkets. It's pretty impressive. Candle Cove is a creepypasta written by Chris Straub, who also worked on Local 58, which will be discussed later. The story is told through a fictional net nostalgia forum where users write about their memories of a low-budget kids show called Candle Cove, on Channel 58 by the way. They begin talking about the pirate marionettes, starting with Pirate Percy, who has an old porcelain baby head. So the premise of Candle Cove is about a girl named Janice who boards a ship called the Laughingstock with Pirate Percy. Percy wasn't a very good pirate because he gets scared easily, and the Laughingstock was able to speak and would tell Percy and Janice, "You have to go inside," as it flapped its foam jaw. On top of that, there's a villain called the Skin Taker, a freakish skeleton with a sliding jaw, wearing a brown hat and cape. Janice asked why his mouth moved like that, for which the Skin Taker replied with, "To grind your skin." Pretty fucking terrifying for a kids show so far. The forum caps off a discussion of the show by talking about an episode where all of the puppets and marionettes begin screaming to the top of their lungs, with Janice crying in the corner. The story ends after one of the users asks their moms if they remembered the show, to which they only found out that they had only been watching Static the whole time. I Am Sophie is an ARG and YouTube web series, which at first when it started out looked like some sort of douche Jake Paul looking kind of vlog content, and the reaction to this channel is reflected in the like to dislike ratio of the first video. So the channel starts with Sophie making vlogs about her lavish lifestyle and making guides on how to be like her. Observant viewers, however, started to realize what this series actually is. In the first video, rich girl lives on 10 pounds for a day, failed. There's a quick frame of a girl sitting in front of her makeup desk. This girl shows up again at the end of the following video. Sophie reveals that the girl in the hidden video is a girl named Laura. She talks about how strange the clips are and decides to visit Laura to check up on her, see if she's okay. So they make a video about her visiting Laura, and Sophie just keeps sneak dissing Laura in the editing and like when she's off camera.
Like, I thought it was super important for you guys to know like how weird people can get when they don't stay grounded and stay true to themselves and don't really know who they are. MTV Cribs up in this place.
Yes! Queen!
It looks creepy AF.
Anyway, so Sophie gets a tech guy to come in to check out Laura's computer. His name's Mark, by the way. As the video goes on, Laura seems kinda off. Sophie notices a closed off room and asks Laura about it, and Laura just dodges questions about it. She also has cat food lying around, and when asked about it, she just straight up says, "I don't have a cat." Mark arrives, and while checking out Laura's computer, weird banging noises can be heard above them. One of Sophie's friends, Plum, decides to investigate while the rest get freaked out and leave the house. At this point, the audience is beginning to believe that this series is just a parody about pretentious vloggers. And then, all of a sudden, the channel has a live stream of an abandoned room with an empty chair and random figures flashing throughout this feed. People asked Sophie on Instagram about the stream, and she responded that she hadn't touched her channel in a while. She eventually returns and uploads another video. This next video basically just starts the whole thing. At first, Sophie looks like she's being held hostage while she apologizes for not uploading recently. She constantly looks back to see if her dad is there, and her manager constantly berates her for messing up the lines. The technician Mark appears in her house only wearing underwear. He talks about a worm growing inside of his head before Sophie books it out of the house. No matter how fast she runs, Mark and another figure is constantly chasing her. Sophie and her manager get teleported into the live stream room, with Plum awakening inside. Mark shows up and kills Plum and Sophie's manager before joining up with Lara to prepare Sophie for a sacrifice. The video then abruptly ends. Now Lara has control of the channel and she uploads 3 videos which are basically the first 3 videos of the channel, but instead of Sophie, it's Lara. And it seems like Lara got someone else to handle all the hijackings on Sophie's other social medias. In a later video, we get introduced to the hacker who we later know as Simon. Simon has a collection of discs which contains Lara's own YouTube vlogs. In these vlogs, she seems like a normal person, so what could make this into this? Simon then skips to the last vlog on the disc, and it shows Lara reacting to a new Fortnite map. And it's obvious that Lara doesn't give 2 shits about Fortnite, so she has to look up other people's reactions to make sure that she's in line with what other people are saying. So it's obvious that Lara is struggling to engage her audience and grow her channel. Simon then watches the rest of the vlogs on the disc and comes across Lara playing a video game sent by some organization. The game revolves around Lara playing as Sophie, and she reads the monologue from the first Sophie video while random flashes of images pop up. In fact, the entire game is an RPG of the first collection of videos, with some minor tweaks to the dialogue, including looking at a dead horse and having airplane chairs made out of human skin. The next couple of videos progress the plot substantially. Simon was the one to send Lara the game, and Lara can hear Sophie behind her door. In fact, Lara is hearing Sophie from the video where she and her friends visit Lara. The real Lara was behind the door, which is probably why the imposter was dodging questions about it. Simon continues to upload Lara's vlogs, with one of her videos talking about nightmares of a mysterious creature and her frustrations of being a YouTuber. More vlogs get released by Simon, including Lara burning some British pounds as a money challenge, videos of her literally beating a dead horse, and her killing her cat. So this ARG is about YouTubers. Me. They start small, then they get a big hit, and they decide to milk that hit for views. Then they get burnt out, start to hate their own content, but realize that if they want to keep their channel alive, they have to make this stuff. And this is why this ARG scares me. Not in the traditional sense, it's because I could be going down this path as well. These iceberg videos, they do amazing, but when is it until I get sick of icebergs and want to move on? Will my channel be able to rebound on the new content I'll make? And this ARG perfectly illustrates that. The Sun Vanished is an ARG told through a Twitter account which begins with newscasts elaborating how the sun had simply vanished. At this point, I will call the account TSV for the sake of my sanity. So TSV begins to write about strange sounds outside of their house and how their power went out as well. Ominous figures begin appearing in the town, and TSV begins to hear an unknown aircraft hovering above them. They were able to get into contact with their friends Danyan. He tells TSV about the unexplainable shit that he's seen outside, and plans to make a road trip to TSV's house, which takes about 2 days. TSV writes about a man standing in front of his lawn for hours and sends a picture to Danyan, who immediately tells TSV to stay away from the window, turn off all the lights, and not talk to them. They hide and receive an anonymous message warning about a red light when looked at, as it would cause them to become sort of like the man standing outside the front lawn. Danyan would message TSV saying that he's getting closer to them, but he's out of gas and is stranded. So most of the ARG elements come from Twitter replies and Twitter polls that TSV would make. And this story spans hundreds of tweets, including a lot of footage from TSV's experience outside. So I'm just gonna get straight to the point. Aliens. That's right, extraterrestrial life forms are taking over the planet Earth, and they have stolen the sun from us. They also use lights to hypnotize people into zombies and walk around aimlessly. So TSV begins to wonder if Danyan was actually infected, and they think Danyan's sus, okay? So TSV asks Twitter on whether or not they should trust him, and Twitter says no. So TSV would then question Danyan about their personal life details, for which Danyan sort of suspiciously dodges the questions. TSV also snagged a picture of the aircraft that had been flying over his house, and it looks pretty metal. There's a lot to unfold in this story, and it's a pretty great read. If you want an online rabbit hole about a ruthless alien invasion, this is it. As of now, the Twitter account had stopped posting in October 2020, and the creators have produced a short film adaptation of TSV. It's now available on YouTube for free. Another piece of work from Alan Resnick and his team, This House Has People in It, is framed as surveillance footage of a normal family going on about their day. A birthday, actually. But then, right off the bat, there's something strange going on. In the kitchen cameras, there's a woman lying on the ground where the parents just seem to ignore it. The camera in the bedroom begins glitching out. Something that looks like some dude in a Sonic costume begins running through the living room window. So the video revolves around the girl on the floor, Madison. Her parents begin to get frustrated that she's lying on the floor, but the problem is her parents can't pull her off the ground. She seems to be stuck to the floor. The neighbors come by to join the party, but birthday boy Jackson tells them to stay outside. One thing to note is how apathetic the rest of the family is. Even the repairman cared more about Madison than the grandma and birthday boy Jackson as well. Madison begins to sink through the ground into the basement, and this is where shit hits the fan. The father in the basement begins to lose his mind, ranting about the situation that's happening and how they want to stay as a family. The baby begins to crawl out of the house and into the neighborhood. The other kids just start throwing shit around and having like a birthday party in the front yard. Once Madison falls through into the basement, it cuts to the front yard camera where everyone is lying on the floor, and the video ends there. So by itself, This House Has People in It is a pretty unique short horror film about how regular suburban life can be twisted in the strangest ways possible. However, there are a lot of details and Easter eggs in this video, which there's a lot. I can't really explain all of them. There's a lot of unedited footage of a bear Easter eggs. Sometimes Madison takes place of her mother in some frames. There are some more shots of random people, including that Sonic looking ass dude I mentioned earlier. So the ARG begins when viewers go onto the AB Surveillance Solutions website, the company that produced the surveillance footage and provided the cameras to the family. If users press the forgot password button and entered their email, they would receive the password bed sheets. With this login, users can now access a command line where all the archived surveillance footage can be accessed. Specifically, 76 files of videos, images, audio files, and much more. So I'm going to be summarizing some of the key videos in this archive. There's a video called The Sculptor's Playground, where Alan Resnick portrays a sculptor attempting to teach the audience on how to make crude sculptures. The sculptor also has his own website, where he writes about a specific disease called Lynx. Lynx disease can be contracted through the air, water, sex, needles, too much exercise, and handling clay. The most common symptom of Lynx is yucky ear. Just in case it wasn't clear enough, Lynx disease is fake. There's also another video about a man who claims that hedge apples, which are poisonous by the way, don't eat them, are the cure to cancer and other major diseases. One thing to note, hedge apples are also called horse apples, which is the more kid-friendly way to say bullshit. This makes it clear that everything the sculptor said is pretty much false. This is the end of part 1. If you like what you saw, leave a comment if you want part 2. Also like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day.